There are moments in a life that change you forever, moments that divide your existence into a before and an after. For me, that moment arrived in a cold hospital hallway, under flickering fluorescent lights, while nurses hurried past without looking at me. That night at the hospital, I understood that the most painful words aren't the ones that are shouted. They are the ones whispered coldly, in front of strangers who look down uncomfortably, pretending not to have heard anything. "Mom, my wife only wants family here." My son's voice sounded distant, as if coming from very far away, even though he was standing only 3 feet away. I searched his eyes, those eyes I had first seen open 32 years ago, those eyes that looked at me with adoration when he was a child, those eyes that now avoided mine, as if he were ashamed to see me. And then, while I was searching for some sign of regret, some glimpse of the son I knew, Robert completed the sentence that would tear me in two. "Don't insist. She has never liked you." The world stopped. The voices of the hospital became a distant murmur. The footsteps of people turned into echoes. And I stood there, rooted in that hallway, feeling something inside me break without making a sound. 12 hours on the highway. 12 hours sitting on an old bus that smelled of diesel and stale food. 12 hours looking out the fogged-up window, watching towns, mountains, endless roads pass by, all while imagining that moment, the moment I would meet my grandson. I had planned every detail in my mind throughout the entire trip. I imagined what it would be like to hold him for the first time, how his little head would smell, how his soft skin would feel against my cheek. I imagined Robert's eyes shining with emotion as he introduced me to his son. I imagined Valerie, tired but happy, letting me help her. I imagined so many things, but I never imagined this. I never imagined that my own son would look at me as if I were an intruder, as if I were a problem to be solved, as if my presence, after 12 hours of travel, after a lifetime of sacrifices, were a nuisance. The first cry of my grandson that I heard came from behind a closed door, a small, fragile, beautiful cry, and I was on the other side, like a stranger who isn't allowed to enter. I thought of all the times Robert cried as a baby, how I rocked him for hours in the early morning, walking barefoot across the cold house, singing him songs I made up, promising him that everything would be all right. I thought of how his father slept deeply while I held our son against my chest, feeling his cries turn into sighs, and his sighs turn into sleep. I thought of the nights of fever, the rushes to the emergency room, the fears that only a mother knows. And now that same son, that man I had held when the world frightened him, was telling me I was not welcome at the most important moment of his life. My name is Mary Blake. I am 61 years old. I was born in Denver, Colorado, in a house with a big yard and apple trees. I grew up helping my mother in the kitchen, learning to make cornbread from scratch, listening to her advice about life and love. I married young at age 22, to a good man, hard-working, a man of few words, but a strong heart. We had Robert when I was 25, and from that day on, my entire life revolved around that boy. When my husband died, Robert was 15 years old, a massive heart attack on a random Tuesday. He left without saying goodbye, like someone quietly closing a door. And there we were, Robert and I, trying to figure out how to move forward without him. I sold the business. I worked wherever I could. I cleaned dental offices in the pre-dawn hours, my hands smelling of bleach and disinfectant. I worked reception in the afternoons. I would come home with swollen feet and an aching back, but always with a smile for my son, because he was my reason for being, my engine, my everything. And now that everything was looking at me with eyes I didn't recognize, I stood silent in that hallway, Not because I was speechless. I had words, thousands of them. I wanted to scream that I had travelled 12 hours. I wanted to remind him of everything I had done for him. I wanted to ask him when he had become this man who treated me like a bother. But I didn't say anything, because my mother taught me that there are moments when silence carries more dignity than any word. I nodded slowly. I swallowed. I felt the tears burning behind my eyes, but I wouldn't let them fall. I wouldn't give anyone that satisfaction. I picked up my worn leather purse, that dark brown bag my mother gave me on my 30th birthday. Take it with you to all the important moments in your life, she had told me, and I certainly had. That purse was with me when Robert was born, when he graduated from college, when he moved to Boston, and now it was with me in this humiliation. I turned on my heel. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't say congratulations. I didn't say anything. I just walked, one foot in front of the other, down that endless corridor of Boston General Hospital. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead. The smell of disinfectant made me dizzy. I heard distant voices, laughter from other families celebrating births, babies crying, announcements over the loudspeaker. I passed other grandmothers holding their newborn grandchildren. I saw them smile, cry with happiness, take pictures. I saw them being part of something beautiful, and I kept walking. I left the hospital at 9 o'clock at night. The cold February air of Boston hit my face. I stood on the sidewalk, watching the taxis pass by, watching people entering and leaving the hospital, watching life continue its normal course while mine fell apart. I didn't know where to go. My bus back was not until the following afternoon. I had planned to stay several days, help with the baby, cook for Robert and Valerie, be useful, but there was nothing left for me to do there. I took a taxi to a cheap hotel I found online, a small room with thin walls and a creaky bed. I could hear laughter from the hallway, televisions blasting, couples arguing. I sat on the edge of that unfamiliar bed and finally let the tears out. I cried harder than I had cried since my husband died. I cried for all the broken expectations, for all the destroyed illusions, for that grandson who had just been born and whom they wouldn't let me meet. But most of all, I cried for my son, for the boy who hugged me tight and told me, "I love you, Mummy," before going to sleep, for the teenager who cried in my arms when his father died, for the young man who promised me he would always be there for me. Where had that son gone? When had he turned into this man who saw me as an inconvenience? I barely slept that night. I lay looking at the stained ceiling of that cheap hotel, listening to the noises of the city that never sleeps, thinking about everything that had gone wrong. At 6 o'clock in the morning, I got up. I took a long shower, letting the hot water wash away some of the pain. I dressed carefully. I put on the navy blue dress I had brought especially for this occasion. I put on makeup even though no one would see me, because I wasn't going to let anyone see me defeated. I went down to breakfast in the hotel's small dining area, watery coffee and hard sweet rolls, but it didn't matter. I wasn't hungry anyway. I spent the day walking around the city, aimlessly, just walking, looking at store windows, sitting on park benches, watching families pass by, mothers with their children, grandmothers with their grandchildren, complete families, happy, together, and me completely alone. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I went to the bus terminal. I sat on a plastic bench to wait for my bus. There were other people waiting too. An older lady was reading a magazine. A young man was listening to music on headphones. A family was eating sandwiches and soda. Everyone had somewhere to go. Everyone had someone waiting for them. And I only had an empty house in Denver. The bus left at 6 o'clock. Another 12 hours of travel. But this time I wasn't looking out the window imagining happy moments. This time I only saw my reflection in the dark glass. A woman of 61 years, tired, sad, alone. I wondered if Robert had noticed I left, if he would care, if at any point he would think, I should have treated my mother better. But something told me no. Something told me that right now he was completely happy with his new family, with his wife, with his son. And I was just an uncomfortable thought he preferred to forget. I arrived in Denver at 6 o'clock in the morning. The sun was just beginning to rise. The streets were empty. I took a taxi to my house. When I opened the door, everything was exactly as I had left it. The coffee cup I hadn't washed before leaving. Yesterday's newspaper. The silence, that silence that used to be peace and was now loneliness. I set my suitcase on the floor. I hung my leather purse on the hook by the door. I made myself a cup of coffee and sat at my kitchen table. The same table where Robert and I ate breakfast together when he was a child. The same table where he did his homework while I cooked dinner. The same table where I was now completely alone. And it was there, sitting in that familiar kitchen, drinking coffee that tasted bitter, when my phone rang. It was an unknown number. Boston. For a second, my heart leaped. I thought, it's Robert. He regrets it. He's going to apologize. I answered with a trembling voice. Hello? Hello, Mrs. Mary Blake? It wasn't my son's voice. Yes, this is she. Good afternoon, ma'am. We are calling from Boston General Hospital, Billing and Collections Department. My blood ran cold. Yes, we have an outstanding balance on the account for your daughter-in-law's delivery, Mrs. Valerie Torres Blake. The medical insurance covered most of it, but there is a remaining balance of $10,000 for the type of room they requested and some special medications that are not covered by your policy. $10,000. Your son, Mr. Robert Blake, provided your number as an emergency contact for payment issues. Emergency contact. For payment issues. Not to meet my grandson, not to be present, to pay. Ma'am, are you listening? I felt the coffee getting cold in my hand. I felt my heart beating slowly, very slowly, and at that moment I understood everything. Robert hadn't given my number to the hospital because he wanted me to be close. He had given it because he needed my money. He needed me, the intrusive mother, the unwelcome grandmother, to pay his bills. Mrs. Blake, can you make the deposit this week? Otherwise, we will have to forward the account to a legal process that may affect your son's credit history. I took a deep breath, very deep. I thought of all the times I had paid for things for Robert. College, books, the security deposit for his first apartment, clothes for his job interviews. Everything, always everything, and I never asked for anything in return. Only love, only respect, only a place in his life. But he hadn't even given me that. Mom, my voice came out calm, calmer than I expected. I don't have family there. There was silence on the other end. I mean, I don't have any family in Boston. There must be a mistake. I don't have a son named Robert Blake. But, Ma'am, our records clearly state that you are the patient's mother and that there is a mistake in your records. Good day. And I hung up. I put the phone down on the table with trembling hands. My heart was beating so hard I could hear it in my ears. Tears were burning, but this time I didn't let them out, because something inside me had changed. Something that had been bending for months, for years perhaps, had finally broken. But it didn't break toward pain. It broke toward clarity. I got up from the table. I put my cup in the sink. I walked to my living room and sat in my favorite armchair, the one my husband gave me 20 years ago, the one that had witnessed so many nights of reading, knitting, waiting for Robert to call. I stayed there, looking out the window toward my small yard. The trees were moving in the wind. The birds were singing. Life was going on, and for the first time in a long time, I felt something like peace. It wasn't happiness, it wasn't joy, but it was peace. The peace of knowing I had set a boundary. The peace of knowing my dignity was worth more than the love of someone who didn't know how to value me. The peace of knowing that for the first time in my life, I had chosen myself. Sometimes we trust too much in those we shouldn't. Have you also been disappointed by someone you loved? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to read it. There are memories we keep like perfect photographs, moments frozen in time where everything was simple, where love didn't hurt, where being a mother was the most natural and beautiful thing in the world. Robert was born in the early morning of July, 32 years ago. It was thunderstorm season, and that night the sky opened up as if to wash the whole world. The streets of Denver turned into rivers. The thunder rumbled so loudly it made the windows shake. I was in bed, clutching my belly, feeling the contractions pierce me like waves, becoming more and more frequent. My husband, Richard, was running back and forth across the room, nervous, searching for the car keys, the hospital bag, trying to stay calm even though his hands were shaking. "Calm down, Richard," I told him between breaths. "We have time." But we didn't have much time. The contractions became more intense, more frequent. My body knew it was time, even though my mind wasn't ready to face the unknown yet. Richard helped me down the stairs. The rain soaked us in the few seconds it took to get to the car. He drove faster than I had ever seen him drive. Fast but careful, his hands tight on the wheel, the windshield wipers battling the deluge. "Hold on, honey, we're almost there." I was in the back, breathing as they had taught me in prenatal classes, counting the seconds between each contraction, watching the city blur past in the rain through the window, and thinking, in a few hours, I'm going to meet my son. We arrived at the county hospital at 3 o'clock in the morning. The nurses greeted me with professionalism, but also with warmth. They put me in a gown, hooked me up to monitors, checked me. "You are very far along, Mom. This baby is in a hurry." Richard stayed with me the whole time. He held my hand. He wiped the sweat from my brow. He told me over and over, "You are doing great. You are amazing." And when the moment finally came to push, when I felt my body tearing in two, when the pain was so intense I thought I wouldn't survive, I heard the cry, my son's cry. "It's a boy," the doctor announced. "A beautiful, healthy boy." They put him on my chest. He was wet, wrinkled, perfect. His eyes were closed and his fists were clenched. And when I felt his skin against mine, when I heard his small, rapid breathing, I knew my life had changed forever. "Hello, my love," I whispered. "I'm your mummy." Richard was crying beside me. He hugged both of us. And in that moment, in that hospital room at 5 o'clock in the morning, with the rain still beating against the windows, we were the happiest family in the world. We named him Robert, after my grandfather. A countryman, with calloused hands and a huge heart. A man who fixed everything patiently and never raised his voice, who looked you in the eye when you spoke and made you feel like you were the most important person in the world. "I hope he's like him," I told Richard as I rocked our newborn son. "I hope he's kind. I hope he's noble." "He will be," my husband promised me. "With a mother like you, how could he not?" The first few years were like a dream, difficult, exhausting, but beautiful. Robert was a calm baby. He didn't cry much. He slept well. But when he was awake, he was pure curiosity. He touched everything, looked at everything, smiled easily. I remember the mornings in our small house. I would wake up to the sun coming through the window and Robert's cooing in his crib. I would pick him up, change him, nurse him while watching Denver wake up outside the window. Richard would leave for work early. He owned a hardware store downtown, a modest but stable business. He left at 6 o'clock in the morning and came home at 7 o'clock at night, tired, but always with a smile for his son. I stayed home with Robert. I didn't work outside the home then. We were a traditional family. Richard provided. I took care of the home. And it didn't bother me. I loved it. I loved watching my son grow, seeing how he learned to sit up, to crawl, to walk. I loved listening to him babble his first words. Mommy was the first. Of course it was the first, because I was the one who was always there. When Robert turned 2, he started helping me in the kitchen. Well, helping is a strong word. He mostly made a mess. He stood on a stool next to the stove and stirred whatever I was cooking. He spilled flour, smeared dough on his face. He laughed, and I laughed with him. We made cornbread together. I taught him how to knead. His small hands tried to copy my movements. His cornbreads came out crooked, thick, but we cooked them anyway and ate them together, laughing at how imperfect they were. When you grow up, I told him, you're going to make the best cornbread in Denver. Like yours, Mummy, even better than yours. The house always smelled of vanilla and cinnamon, of freshly brewed coffee, of home-cooked food, of home. On Sundays we went to the park, Richard, Robert and I. We brought an old blanket and sat under the trees. Robert ran through the grass, chased pigeons, climbed on the playground equipment. Richard and I watched him from the blanket, holding hands, feeling like we had everything we needed. We are lucky, Richard would tell me. We are, I would reply. And we were. Robert kept growing, from baby to child, from child to preteen. Each stage brought its challenges, but also its joys. When he started elementary school, I was one of the mothers, Belle, who never missed a meeting, who baked cakes for the school fairs, who helped with the costumes for the festival, who knew all the teachers by name. Robert was a good student, not the best in the class, but diligent, responsible. We did homework together at the kitchen table. I explained math to him, even though sometimes I didn't quite understand it myself. He read me his English compositions, stories about superheroes, about dinosaurs, about adventures in space. You're going to be a writer, I told him. No, Mommy, I'm going to be an engineer, like Uncle Mike. My brother was a civil engineer. Robert admired him. Every time my brother came to visit us, Robert would bombard him with questions. How do you build bridges? Why don't buildings fall down? How does this work? How does that work? And my brother, patiently, would explain everything to him. This kid is going places, he would tell me, and I believed him. The years passed quickly, too quickly. One day Robert was 5 years old and fit in my arms, and suddenly he was 15 and taller than me. It was in those years that Richard became ill. No, he didn't become ill. He died. Just like that, without warning, without goodbyes. It was a Tuesday in October. I remember the day perfectly because it was a normal day, completely normal. We ate breakfast together. Richard left for work as always. He kissed me on the forehead. See you tonight, honey. But we didn't see each other that night. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I received a call. It was from the hardware store. Mrs. Blake, you need to come to the hospital. Richard, what happened? He had a heart attack. He's at the county hospital. The world stopped. I rushed to the hospital. Robert came with me. I had gone to pick him up from school. He was 15 years old. He didn't quite understand what was happening yet. A doctor came out to talk to us, a young man with tired eyes. I am so sorry. We did everything we could. What? Your husband passed away 20 minutes ago. The heart attack was massive. He didn't suffer. Robert grabbed my arm. Mum? I didn't know what to tell him. I didn't know how to tell him that his father was gone, that we would never see him again, that our family of 3 was now a family of 2. They let us see him. He was on a gurney. He looked asleep, peaceful, as if at any moment he would open his eyes and say, "What happened? Why are you crying?" But he didn't. Robert slowly approached. He touched his hand. "Dad?" Silence. And then my son, my Robert, that teenager who was almost a man but was still my boy, broke down. He cried harder than I had seen him cry since he was a baby. A gut-wrenching cry. A cry from someone who had just lost his world. I hugged him. I held him. I cried with him. And in that moment, I knew everything had changed. The following days were a blur. The funeral. People coming to offer condolences. The decisions that had to be made. The money we didn't have. The business that had to be closed. Everything fell apart so fast. I sold the hardware store. I had no choice. I didn't know how to run it. And we needed the money to survive. With that money, we paid Richard's debts, the funeral, the overdue bills, and I saved what was left for Robert's education, because my son was going to college. Even if I had to kill myself working, my son was going to have a career. I started working wherever I could. A dental clinic needed someone to clean the offices. They paid me little, but it was something. I started at 5 o'clock in the morning. I cleaned floors, bathrooms, windows. Everything smelled of bleach and disinfectant. My hands became rough. My back started to hurt. But I didn't care. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I would leave there and go straight to work at the reception desk of another clinic. I answered phones. I scheduled appointments. I smiled at the patients, even though I was dead tired. I left at 8 o'clock at night. I arrived home, and Robert had already done his homework. He had already prepared some dinner. He waited for me. "How was your day, Mummy?" "Good, son." "And yours?" "Good." We ate dinner together. We talked about the day, his classes, his friends. And in those moments, sitting at our kitchen table, the two of us alone but together, I felt that we were going to be okay, that everything was going to work out, because we had each other. Robert graduated from high school with good grades. He applied to several universities. He was accepted to the University of Colorado to study civil engineering. "You did it, son," I told him with tears in my eyes the day the acceptance letter arrived. "We did it, Mummy. You did it." He hugged me tight. "I don't know what I would do without you. You'll never have to find out. I will always be here." And I meant it. The university years were difficult, but also beautiful. Robert was diligent. He studied late. I would watch him at the kitchen table, surrounded by books and notes, with cold coffee next to him, completely focused. Sometimes I would stay awake until he finished. I would make him something to eat. We would sit together in silence, he exhausted, me tired, but together. "Do you know what I want to do when I graduate?" he asked me one night. "What?" "Build a bridge, a big one, that connects places, that unites people." "You will do it, son. I know you will." He smiled. "And when I do, it will be named after you. The Mary Blake Bridge." I laughed. "Absolutely not. Name it after your dad." His expression softened. "Or both of you. The Richard and Mary Bridge. That sounds better." On Sundays, we still went to the park. We no longer brought a blanket or went on the playground equipment. But we walked, we talked, we enjoyed the sun. We were a team, mother and son against the world, or so I thought. When Robert was in his last year of college, he started talking about leaving, about looking for work in another city, in Boston specifically. There are more opportunities there, Mummy, but it's also far away. Not that far. It's a few hours on the bus. Robert, you know I support you in everything, but I'm afraid for you to go. Why? Because you are all I have. He sat next to me. He took my hands. And you are all I have. But I have to do this, Mommy. I have to grow. I have to try. He was right. I knew it. But it hurt anyway. He graduated with honors. I was at the ceremony, in the front row, crying with pride, watching him walk up to the platform in his cap and gown, watching him receive his diploma. I thought of Richard, of how he would be just as proud. I thought of all the sacrifices, all the early mornings cleaning floors, all the sleepless nights. And I thought, it was worth it. Everything was worth it. After the ceremony, Robert hugged me. Thank you, Mummy. None of this would have been possible without you. Always, son. I will always be here for you. 2 months later, he found a job, a large construction company in Boston. Good salary, good benefits. You did it, I told him when he gave me the news. We did it. I helped him with everything. With the deposit for the apartment, with the basic furniture, with the clothes for work. I spent almost all my savings, but I didn't care. It was for my son. The day he left was one of the hardest days of my life. I went with him to the bus terminal. We carried his big suitcase and his backpack. We waited together in the waiting area. When his bus was announced, we hugged. Take good care of yourself, son. You too, Mummy. Call me when you arrive. Of course, and eat well. Don't just eat on the go. I won't, and don't stay up too late. Mummy, I'm going to be fine. I know, it's just that I'm going to miss you so much. And I'll miss you too. He got on the bus. He found his seat by the window. He waved goodbye. I stayed there, standing in that terminal, watching him through the dirty glass of the bus, trying to etch his face into my memory. The bus pulled away. I watched him drive away down the street. How he got smaller and smaller until he disappeared into the traffic. And there, standing in that noisy, crowded terminal, I felt completely alone for the first time since Richard died. I got into a taxi and gave him my address. The whole way home, I looked out the window without really seeing anything. When I arrived home, I went inside slowly. Everything was silent. A heavy, uncomfortable silence. I went to Robert's room. It was empty. The bed was made. The desk was clean. There were only a few things he hadn't taken. Old posters on the walls. Trophies from school. I sat on his bed. It still smelled like him. And I cried. I cried because my son was gone. Because the house was empty. Because I realized I had spent the last 17 years living for him. And now I didn't know how to live for myself. But I told myself, it's normal, Mary. Children grow up, children leave. That's life. And I tried to convince myself that it was true. I tried to convince myself that this was natural, that I should be proud, that my job as a mother had been to prepare him for this moment. But a part of me, a small part that didn't want to admit it, felt that something was wrong. That emptiness wasn't just because he had left. It was something deeper. It was the premonition that things would never be the same again. That the son who had promised me he would always be there was slowly pulling away in a way I couldn't stop. And I was right. But I didn't know it yet. I was still holding on to the image of the boy who hugged me in the park, of the teenager who cried in my arms when his father died, of the young man who told me nothing would have been possible without me. I didn't know that son was becoming a thing of the past, and that the man he was becoming was someone I wouldn't recognize. As I tell all this, I wonder where you might be listening to me. Write the name of your city in the comments. The first 3 months were perfect. Well, not perfect, but good enough to keep hope alive. Robert called me every day, every night, to be exact, at 9 o'clock on the dot, after getting home from work, after dinner, before going to bed. My phone would ring, and no matter what I was doing, I would answer immediately. Son, hi mummy, how was your day? And we would talk. About everything. About nothing. About his job at the construction company, the projects he was working on, his co-workers, the enormous city that still intimidated him a little. It's so big, Mommy. There are so many people, so many cars, so much noise. Do you like it? Yes and no. It's exciting but also tiring. Sometimes I miss the calm of Denver. You can always come back, son. This is your home. I know, Mummy, thank you. I would tell him about my day too. The work at the clinic, Rose, my lifelong friend who kept asking about him, the weather, the neighborhood news. Simple, ordinary conversations. But to me they meant the world because they meant we were still connected, that the physical distance hadn't broken our bond. Weekends were harder. The hours stretched on endlessly. I would wake up on Saturday morning and the house would be silent. A silence that Robert used to fill with his music, with his footsteps, with his voice. I tried to fill that void with activities. I cleaned the house from top to bottom, even though it was already clean. I cooked, even though it was just for me. I watched television without really paying attention. Rose came to visit me almost every Sunday. Oh, Mary, you need to get out more. Meet people. You can't stay cooped up here waiting for Robert to call. I'm not cooped up, and I'm not waiting for him to call. I'm just enjoying my peace. Peace, Rose scoffed. This isn't peace, it's loneliness. Maybe she was right, but I wasn't ready to admit it. The first subtle change came in the 4th month. One Tuesday, Robert didn't call at 9 o'clock. I waited until 9:30. Nothing. At 10 o'clock, I sent him a text message. Everything okay, son? He replied an hour later. Yes, Mummy, sorry, I lost track of time. No problem. Do you want to talk? I'm really tired. Can we talk tomorrow? Of course. Son, get some rest. The next day, he did call, but the conversation was shorter. 15 minutes instead of an hour. Sorry, Mummy, I have to finish some work stuff. It's okay, son. Don't worry. I believed him. Of course, I believed him. It was natural that he was worried, that work absorbed him, that he had less time. But then he went from calling every day to calling every other day, and then every 3 days, and then once a week. The change was gradual but constant, like a tide that recedes so slowly you don't realize it until you're standing on the empty beach, wondering where the sea went. When we did talk, his voice sounded different, distant, as if he were thinking about other things while talking to me. Robert, are you okay? You sound strange. I'm fine, Mummy. Just tired. Are you eating well? Yes. Are you getting enough sleep? Yes, Mummy. Are you sure everything is fine? A sigh on the other end. Yes, Mum. Everything is fine. It's just that I've been really busy. I understand, son. I don't want to bother you. You don't bother me. But his tone said otherwise. I tried not to be intense, not to call him so much, to wait for him to reach out to me. But the days between calls kept getting longer. 1 week, 2 weeks. There was one time when 18 days went by without us talking. 18 days where I woke up every morning hoping my phone would ring, where I compulsively checked for messages, where I wondered if I had done something wrong, if I had overwhelmed him, if I had been too demanding. When he finally called me, after those 18 days, I tried to sound casual. Son? What a surprise. Hi, Mummy. How have you been? Good. Good. And you? Very busy. Work is intense. So intense that you can't call your mother? I said it jokingly, but it came out sharper than I intended. Uncomfortable silence. I'm sorry, Mummy. I've really been up to my neck in work. I understand. It's just that I miss you, son. I miss talking to you. And I miss you too. But you have to understand that my life here is different. I have many responsibilities. I know. I don't want to pressure you. I just want to hear from you. And you will hear from me. I promise I'll call more often. But he didn't. The calls continued to space out. And when we talked, they were shorter and more superficial each time. He no longer told me about his day. He no longer asked about mine. They were functional conversations, like fulfilling a duty. How are you? Good. What have you been up to? Working? Anything new? No. Well, son, I'll let you rest. Okay, Mommy, take care. And we would hang up. I would be left with the phone in my hand, feeling how something invisible but real was breaking between us. It was on one of those brief, almost perfunctory calls that Robert dropped the bomb. Oh, Mummy. I met someone. My heart leaped, not with alarm, with excitement. A girlfriend. My son had a girlfriend. Really, son, that's wonderful. Tell me everything. For the first time in weeks, I heard genuine excitement in his voice. Her name is Valerie. She's an architect. She works at the same construction company. That's great, son. What is she like? She's amazing, Mummy. She's smart, talented, beautiful. She's 28 years old. She graduated from NYU. 28 years old. Robert was 24. She was older, but it didn't matter. I'm so happy for you, son. Have you been dating long? About 2 months. 2 months, and he was just telling me. And how is everything going? Very well. Honestly, I'm really happy, Mummy. I haven't felt this way in a long time. His happiness was palpable, genuine, and I was happy for him. I was truly happy, because a mother always wants to see her son happy. I would love to meet her son. There was a small pause. Yeah, sure. Sometime. Sometime. Yes, Mummy. It's still too soon. We're just getting to know each other. But you've been dating for 2 months. Yes, but we'll see. I don't want to rush things. I nodded, although he couldn't see me. It's okay, son. Whenever you want. Thanks for understanding. Will you send me a picture of you two? Another pause. Maybe later, okay? I have to go. Valerie is waiting for me. Valerie is waiting for me. Those 4 words stabbed me in the chest, and I didn't know why. Okay, son. Have fun. Thanks, Mummy. Love you. I love you too. He hung up before I could say anything else. I remained sitting in my armchair, looking at the phone, trying to process what had just happened. My son had a girlfriend. It was good news. I should be celebrating. So why did I feel this knot in my stomach? I tried to convince myself that it was just mother's nerves, that it was natural to worry, that any mother feels something when her son starts a serious relationship. But it was more than that. It was the tone of his voice when he spoke about her. The way he had said, "Valerie is waiting for me," as if she were now the most important thing, as if I had been relegated to second place, or third place, or no place. The following weeks confirmed my suspicions. Robert barely called anymore, and when he did, all the conversations revolved around Valerie. Valerie and I went to this restaurant. Valerie showed me this place. Valerie says that. Valerie, Valerie, Valerie. I listened. I smiled. I asked the appropriate questions, but inside I felt myself disappearing from his life. I sent him text messages, and it took him hours to respond, sometimes days. "Sorry, Mommy, I've been with Valerie." I tried to get to know her through the little Robert shared. From what I understood, she came from a well-off family in Boston. Her father was an architect too. Her mother was a college professor. She had a younger sister studying medicine, a different family from ours, a family with money, with generations of university education, with connections, not like us. A family from Denver, middle class that became lower class when Richard died. A mother who cleaned floors and a son who had studied on scholarships. I wondered what Valerie would think of us, of me. I tried not to think like that, not to create stories in my head. But it was difficult when Robert shared less and less with me. One day while we were talking on the phone, I heard a woman's voice in the background. "Robert, are you coming?" "I'm on my way, honey." "Honey." "Is Valerie there?" I asked. "Yes, Mummy, she's here at the apartment." "Oh, I didn't know you were living together." Silence. "We're not living together. She just came to visit me." "I understand." Another uncomfortable silence. "Mommy, I have to go. Valerie and I are going out." "Of course, son. Have fun." "Thanks. I'll call you later." But later became an empty promise. Months passed. Robert was increasingly evasive, more distant, more absent. For my 60th birthday, he didn't come. He sent flowers by mail, yellow roses, 12 roses, one for each month we hadn't seen each other. The card said, "Happy birthday, Mummy. Sorry I couldn't be there. Valerie and I have a lot of work. Love you lots. Robert." I stared at those flowers for hours. They were pretty, expensive, probably, but they were cold. There was no warmth in them. There was no presence. They were just a reminder that my son was hundreds of miles away, too busy with his new life to come see his mother on her birthday. Rose organized a lunch at my house. She invited some neighborhood friends. We made chicken pot pie. We sang Happy Birthday. We ate cake. Everyone asked about Robert. "Didn't your son come?" "He couldn't. He's very busy with work." "Oh, that's a shame. I'm sure he misses you a lot." I smiled. "I'm sure." But inside I wondered if it was true. That night, after everyone left, I collected the dishes alone. I put away the leftovers. I swept the floor. I washed the kitchen. And when everything was finally clean and tidy, I sat in my armchair with a cup of tea. The yellow roses were in a vase on the table. I looked at them intently, and for the first time, I allowed myself to think what I had been avoiding for months. My son was pulling away, and I didn't know how to stop it. Worse, I was starting to suspect that I couldn't stop it. Because when someone wants to leave, when someone has decided that there are more important things than you, there is nothing you can do. You can only watch them go, and try not to break in the process. The flowers withered over the days. The petals turned brown. They fell off one by one. I should have thrown them away. Any normal person would have thrown them away. But I left them there, dry, dead, in that vase on my table, as a reminder of something I didn't want to accept yet. That the son I knew, the son who called me every day, the son who told me nothing would have been possible without me, that son no longer existed. Or at least, he no longer existed for me. There are moments in life where you force yourself to believe a lie because the truth is too painful. Moments where you convince yourself that you are the problem because it's easier to change yourself than to accept that someone you love is hurting you. I reached that point after my 60th birthday. I sat in my kitchen looking at those dead roses, and I made a decision. It was my fault. Of course it was. I must have called too much. I must have asked too many questions. I must be one of those intense mothers, one of those who can't let go of their children, one of those who suffocates them with her love. Robert needed space. He needed to build his own life. And I, with my constant need to hear from him, to talk to him, to be part of his world, was drowning him. That narrative made sense. It was logical. It was what all the psychology magazines said. Learn to let go of your adult children. Don't be a helicopter mom. Let your son live his life. So I decided to do exactly that. I stopped calling him. Completely. If he wanted to talk to me, he could call me. I wouldn't pressure him anymore. A week went by without us talking. I waited. I compulsively checked my phone, but I didn't dial his number. Give him space, I repeated to myself. He's busy. He'll call you when he can. 2 weeks passed. 3. A month. It was hard to breathe some days. I woke up in the mornings with a weight on my chest, wondering if today Robert would call me. I went to work. I came home. I looked at my phone. Nothing. Rose noticed, of course. Mary, how long has it been since you talked to Robert? A month, more or less. And why don't you call him? Because I'm trying to give him space, not be intense. Rose looked at me with those eyes that I had known for 40 years. Those eyes that saw through all my defenses. Or are you punishing yourself for needing your son? Her words hit me. I'm not punishing myself. I'm just respecting his space. There's a difference between respecting his space and disappearing from his life, Mary. And what do you want me to do? Call him and bother him? Pressure him? I want you to stop thinking that needing your son is bothering him. I fell silent. Rose sighed. I don't know what's going on with Robert, but I know it's not your fault. You're a loving mother, a good mother. And if he can't see that, the problem is his, not yours. I wanted to believe her. I really wanted to, but it was easier to blame myself. In the 5th week, my phone finally rang. It was Robert. My heart leaped so violently I thought it would pop out of my chest. I took 3 deep breaths before answering. I tried to sound casual, as if I hadn't been waiting for this call for 35 days. Son? Hi, Mummy. How have you been? His voice sounded cheerful, light, as if nothing had happened, as if we hadn't gone more than a month without talking. Good, son. And you? Very good. Very good. In fact, I was calling because I have some news. My heart sped up again. What happened? Valerie and I are getting married. The world stopped. All the background noise disappeared. The ticking of the kitchen clock, the hum of the refrigerator, the distant barking of a dog on the street. Everything went silent. Mommy, are you there? Yes, sorry, son. What a surprise. Good surprise, I swallowed. Of course it is. Congratulations, son. I'm so happy for you. Was I happy? I didn't know. I was feeling so many things at once that I couldn't distinguish one emotion from another. Joy because my son was happy. Fear because everything was changing too fast. Pain because I barely knew this woman my son would share his life with. And a question I didn't dare ask out loud. Is there room for me in this new family you are building? Thanks, Mummy, I'm really excited. I can imagine. When is the wedding? In 3 months. It's going to be something small. In Boston. Just close family and intimate friends. Of course, I will definitely go. There was a pause, small but noticeable. Great. I'll send you the details by email. By email? Yes, Mummy. Valerie is organizing everything online. It's easier that way. I understand. I didn't understand anything. Well, Mummy, I have to go. I need to keep letting people know. Have you told many people already? Yes, Valerie's parents, her sister, some friends. And you are telling me just now? It slipped out. I didn't want to sound resentful, but it sounded exactly like that. Uncomfortable silence. Mommy, please don't start. I'm not starting anything, I'm just asking. Well, it sounds like you are. Look, you're important to me, but I also have to coordinate with many people. Not everything revolves around you. His words were like a slap in the face. I'm not saying everything revolves around me. Then don't take it personally. How can I not take it personally, Robert? I'm your mother. Exactly. You're my mother, not my wife. Valerie is my priority now. Silence. A long, heavy silence, filled with everything we couldn't say. Mommy, I'm here. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to sound like that. It's just that there's a lot of stress with the wedding, many decisions, lots of things to organize. I understand. Do you really? Yes, son, I really do. I congratulate you. I congratulate you both. Thank you, Mummy, that means a lot to me. Did it mean a lot? I wasn't sure of anything anymore. I'll send you the wedding details, okay? Okay. I love you, Mummy. And I love you too, son. He hung up before I could say anything else. I stayed sitting in my kitchen with the phone still to my ear, listening to the dial tone, feeling how something inside me cracked a little more. My son was getting married to a woman I didn't know, in a wedding that was being planned without my involvement. And I was smiling and saying I was happy for him because that was what I was supposed to do. 2 days later, I received the invitation by email. It was elegant, professional, with a minimalist design in beige and gold tones. There was a photo of Robert and Valerie. He, smiling from ear to ear. She, beautiful, in a white dress, perfect makeup, wavy hair falling over her shoulders. They looked happy. They looked in love. And I felt like an intruder looking at that photo. The invitation read, Robert Blake and Valerie Torres have the honor of inviting you to the celebration of their marriage. It didn't say, with love, Robert and Valerie. It didn't say, we want to share this special day with you. Just have the honor of inviting you. As if I were just another guest. Like any co-worker. Like any distant acquaintance. Like someone dispensable. I printed the invitation. I don't know why. Maybe because I needed to see it on paper for it to feel real. I put it on the refrigerator with a magnet. Over the next few days, I looked at it every time I passed through the kitchen, and each time I felt the same knot in my stomach. A week later, summoning my courage, I called Robert. Son. Yes, Mummy. I received the invitation. Oh, great. What did you think? Very pretty. Hey, son. I wanted to ask you something. Tell me. Do you think I could meet Valerie before the wedding? Maybe we could get coffee, or have lunch together, or… silence on the other end. It's just that it's complicated, Mummy. Complicated? Yes. Valerie and I are organizing everything. We're running around, tasting cakes, looking at flowers, talking to the photographer. It's chaos. I understand, but I thought that's exactly why I could help you. I'm your mother. I would love to be involved. Yes, but Valerie has very clear ideas about how she wants everything to be. And her mum is helping her with the planning. You know how brides are. They want everything to be perfect. Valerie's mum is helping her, but I'm not. I understand. There will be time after the wedding for you to get to know each other better, right? When things calm down, I guess. Perfect. So I'll see you at the wedding. Robert. Yes. Can I at least talk to her on the phone? Introduce myself? Congratulate her? Another uncomfortable pause. Let me ask her, okay? She's also very stressed. I don't want to pressure her. Pressure her, as if I were a burden, a problem, something that caused stress. It's okay, son. I don't want to cause problems. You don't cause problems, Mummy. It's just that… I know. No, I didn't know. I'll let you go. You have to continue with the preparations. Of course. Take care. You too. I hung up and looked at the phone. I realized I was trembling, not from cold, but from anger, from frustration, from pain, but most of all, from helplessness. Because it didn't matter what I said. It didn't matter what I did. I had been relegated to a supporting role in my son's life, and he didn't even see it. Or worse, he saw it and didn't care. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. During that time, Robert called me 3 times. Brief conversations. Always in a hurry. Always with an excuse to hang up quickly. I swallowed my questions, my desire to know more, my need to be involved. Because I didn't want to be the intense mother, the problematic mother. I wanted to be understanding, patient, respectful, even if it was killing me inside. Rose invited me out, to the movies, for walks, to lunch, trying to get me out of the house, out of the spiral of thoughts I was sinking into. Mary, you can't go on like this. Like what? Like this, waiting, swallowing everything, pretending you're okay, when clearly you're not. I'm fine. No, you're not. And it's okay not to be. What's not okay is that you keep pretending. But pretending was easier than facing the truth. And the truth was too painful. 2 weeks before the wedding, I decided I needed to buy something to wear. I couldn't go to my son's wedding in just anything. I had to look good, presentable. I went to a shopping mall. I went into several stores. I tried on dresses, blouses, skirts. I didn't like anything. Or rather, nothing made me feel the way I wanted to feel. I wanted to feel important, valued, like the mother of the groom. But every dress I tried on made me feel invisible. Finally, I bought a navy blue dress. Elegant but not flashy. Appropriate for a wedding. Appropriate for just another guest. I also bought new shoes. And I went to the neighborhood beauty parlor to have my hair done. Special occasion? The stylist asked. My son's wedding. How exciting. First child. The only one. Oh, that's lovely. I'm sure he's very happy to share this day with you. I smiled. I'm sure. Lie. It was all a lie. But it was easier to lie to strangers than to admit the truth. The day before the wedding, I took the bus to Boston. Another 12 hours of travel. But this time I wasn't excited. I wasn't imagining beautiful moments. I was traveling with a knot in my stomach. With fear. With the certainty that something was going to go wrong. I arrived early in the morning. Robert had given me the address of a hotel near the wedding venue. Nothing luxurious. A simple room in a 3-star hotel. I checked in. I went up to the room. I unpacked my suitcase. I sat on the bed. And I allowed myself to cry for a few minutes. Only a few minutes. Because I had to pull myself together. I had to be ready. I had to be strong. The wedding was at 4 o'clock in the afternoon in a garden south of the city. I arrived at 3 o'clock. I didn't want to be late, but I didn't want to be the first either. When I arrived, there were already people. Waiters setting up the last things. Musicians preparing their instruments. Flowers everywhere. It was beautiful. Simple but elegant. And I was standing there, at the entrance, feeling completely out of place. I saw Valerie in the distance. She was with a group of women, all laughing, all beautiful, all impeccably dressed. I took a deep breath and walked over. Valerie turned around. She looked me up and down. Her eyes paused a second longer than necessary on my shoes, my dress, my hair. And in that second, I knew exactly what she was thinking. This woman doesn't fit in here. But she smiled. A perfect, practiced smile. You must be Mary, Robert's mother. Yes, it's a pleasure, Valerie. I finally get to meet you. I moved closer to hug her. She accepted it, but it was mechanical, without warmth, like hugging someone you were forced to hug. She pulled away quickly. It's nice to meet you. Robert has told me a lot about you. Had he? I doubted it. Likewise, you look beautiful. Thank you. Uncomfortable silence. Well, excuse me. I have to get back to greeting the guests. You know how it is. And she left. Without another word. Without asking how I was. Without asking about the trip. Without introducing me to the women she was with. She just left. I was left standing there, in the middle of that beautiful garden, surrounded by strangers, feeling more alone than ever. I searched for Robert with my eyes. I found him near the altar, talking to some men in suits. He looked nervous, but happy. I walked over. Robert turned around. Mom, you made it. He hugged me. It was a quick hug, the kind you give when people are watching. Of course I made it, son. I wouldn't miss it for anything. I'm glad. Hey, thanks for coming. As if I had a choice not to come. How do you feel? Nervous, excited, everything at once. That's normal. Yes, one of the men called him over. Sorry, Mom. I have to get back to this. Can we talk later? Yes, of course, son. And he left too. I was left there, alone, again. I looked for my seat among the chairs. There were cards with names. I found mine. 3rd row, not the first. Not next to the immediate family, the 3rd. I sat down. I looked around. The 1st row was reserved for Valerie's parents, the 2nd for the grandparents and aunts and uncles. I, the groom's mother, was in the 3rd row, among distant cousins and family friends, as if I were an afterthought, someone who wasn't so important. I swallowed. I tried not to cry. It doesn't matter, I told myself. What matters is that Robert is happy. But it did matter. Of course it mattered. The ceremony began. It was beautiful. Robert looked so happy. Valerie looked radiant. When they exchanged vows, I cried. But they weren't just tears of joy. They were tears of grief, because something told me I was losing my son, not gaining a new life. I was losing him to me. After the wedding, everything became silence. Not the kind of peaceful silence that comforts you, but the kind of deafening silence that constantly reminds you of what you have lost. Robert called me once, after returning from their honeymoon. A week in Miami that I saw completely documented on Valerie's social media. Photos on the beach, in fancy restaurants, toasting with champagne glasses, smiling, kissing, happy. I liked every photo. I commented things like, "so beautiful," or "enjoy yourselves lots." Valerie never responded to my comments, not a single one. When Robert finally called, he sounded relaxed, content. "Hi, Mummy. How have you been?" "Good, son. How was the honeymoon?" "Incredible. Miami is beautiful. You should go sometime." "Maybe." "With what money?" I wanted to say, but I didn't. "And what have you been up to?" "The usual. Work, the house, nothing special." "That's good." Silence. "Well, Mummy, I just called to say hi. We're organizing the apartment. Valerie brought a lot of things, and we have to put everything away." "Of course, son. Don't worry. I'll call you soon, okay? Whenever you can. Take care. You too." And he hung up. 5 minutes. The conversation lasted 5 minutes. I was left staring at the phone, feeling that emptiness in my chest grow larger. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Robert called every 2 or 3 weeks. Brief, superficial conversations, always in a hurry. "How are you, Mummy?" "Good, son. And you?" "How is everything with Valerie?" "Good, good. Everything's calm. I'm glad." "Hey, when are you coming to visit me? It's been so long since I've seen you." "Soon, Mummy. Soon, soon." That word became an empty promise, a placebo he gave me to keep me quiet. But soon never arrived. I tried to fill my days. Rose and I signed up for knitting classes at the neighborhood community center. I learned to make scarves, hats, baby blankets. "Who are those little blankets for?" Rose asked me one day. "For when I have grandchildren," I answered without thinking. Rose looked at me, but didn't say anything. We both knew that was a long way from happening, or so I thought. It was on one of those bi-weekly calls that Robert gave me the news. It was a Tuesday night. I was watching television when my phone rang. I saw his name on the screen, and my heart did that leap it always did when he called me. "Son?" "Hi, Mummy, how are you?" "Good. Everything okay over there?" "Yes, very well. In fact, I have some news." Something in his tone alerted me. He sounded excited, nervous, like when he was a child and had something important to tell me. "What's going on?" "Valerie is pregnant." The world stopped. All the background noise disappeared. The television, the hum of the refrigerator, the traffic in the street. Everything went silent. "Mummy, are you there?" "Yes, yes, sorry. What did you say?" "That Valerie is pregnant. We're having a baby." I felt the tears rising, my heart expanding so much it hurt. "Son, you don't know how happy that makes me." And it was true. I was genuinely happy. I was going to be a grandmother. After so many years taking care of Robert, after all the sacrifices, after all the pain, I was going to have a grandson. "How far along is she?" 3 months. 3 months. And he was just telling me. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "We wanted to wait. You know, just in case. The first 3 months are the most delicate." I understand. But I didn't understand why he had told other people before me, because I was sure I wasn't the first to know. "And how is Valerie? How does she feel?" "Tired, but good. She's had some morning sickness, but nothing serious. She's excited." "I can imagine. Do you know what it is yet?" "Not yet. They'll tell us at the next appointment." "How exciting, son." Yes, Mummy, I'm really happy. Scared too, but happy. For the first time in months, I heard genuine warmth in his voice. I heard the son I knew, the boy who looked for me when he was scared, the young man who shared his dreams with me. You are going to be a wonderful father, son. I hope so. I know you will. Comfortable silence, the kind we hadn't had in a long time. Hey, Mummy, thank you for everything, for always being there. I felt the tears finally spill over. Always, son. I will always be here for you. I know. We talked a little more. He told me about their plans, the baby's room they would start preparing, the names they were considering. When we hung up, I stayed sitting in my armchair, crying. But this time, they were tears of happiness, of hope, of thinking that maybe, just maybe, things were changing, that with the arrival of this baby, Robert would let me be part of his life again, that I could be the grandmother I had always dreamed of being. How naive I was. The following days were the happiest I had had in months. I told Rose, my co-workers, the ladies in the knitting group, I'm going to be a grandmother. Everyone congratulated me. They hugged me. They shared my joy. I started knitting. A light blue blanket in case it was a boy, a pink one in case it was a girl. Then I decided to make a yellow one to be sure. Every stitch was a prayer, a thought of love for that baby I hadn't met yet, but already loved with all my heart. I called Robert a few days later. Son, I'm knitting a little blanket for the baby. That's sweet, Mummy, thank you. Can I make something else? Hats? Booties? Sure, Mummy, whatever you want. And Valerie? Can I talk to her? Congratulate her? Ask her what she needs? There was a pause. She's resting right now, but I'll tell her to call you. Do you promise? I promise. But Valerie never called. I sent her a message on Facebook. Valerie, congratulations on the pregnancy. I'm so excited to be a grandmother. If you need anything, anything at all, I'm here. A big hug. She read it. I saw the 2 blue check marks, but she didn't reply. I sent her another message a week later. Hi, Valerie. How are you feeling? I hope you're well. Sending you a hug. Read. No reply. I tried not to take it personally. I told myself she was busy, that the pregnancy made her tired, that she probably didn't even realize she wasn't replying to me. But something inside me knew that wasn't it. I called Robert again. Son, I sent Valerie some messages, but she hasn't replied. Is she okay? Yes, Mummy. She's fine. She's just really tired. You know how pregnancy is. Can you ask her to call me? Even just 5 minutes, I'd like to talk to her. Another uncomfortable silence. Mummy, Valerie isn't much for talking on the phone. But she's not replying to my messages either. Give her time. She's very sensitive right now with the pregnancy. There was always an excuse. There was always a reason why I couldn't get closer. Months passed. I followed Valerie's pregnancy through Facebook. She posted photos of her belly, the clothes they bought, the baby's room they were decorating. It was a boy. They were going to name him Matthew. Matthew. My grandson would be named Matthew. I commented on every post. So beautiful. I can't wait to meet my Matthew. Love you both. Valerie never replied. Not once. But she did reply to comments from other people, from her friends, from her family. She only ignored mine. I tried not to give it too much importance. I told myself it was my imagination, that I was being paranoid, but it was hard to ignore the obvious. I sent a package by mail, the little blanket I had knitted, a teddy bear, a card. The card said, "For my future grandson." I can't wait to meet you. I already love you more than words can say. Your grandmother, Mary. 2 weeks passed before I received a message from Robert. Mummy, your package arrived. Thanks. The blanket is nice. That was it. Not a photo of Valerie holding the blanket. Not a thank you message from her. Nothing. Just, the blanket is nice. As if it were any ordinary object. Not something I had made with my own hands. With love. With hope. I called Robert. Son, did Valerie like the blanket? Yes, Mummy, I already texted you. I know, but I thought maybe she would call me to thank me. Mummy, I already told you. She's not very expressive. Not even a text message? She's really tired. The pregnancy has her exhausted. Always the same excuse. And you, son? How do you feel? Nervous? Yes, very nervous. But excited too. Have you gone to prenatal classes? Yes. Valerie and her mum go together. Valerie and her mum, not Valerie and me. And do you go with them? Sometimes, when I can get off work. That's good, son. I wanted to ask him why I wasn't invited, why Valerie's mother could be involved, but I couldn't. But I was afraid of sounding resentful, of sounding like the problem. So I swallowed it, like I swallowed everything. Hey, son, I wanted to ask you something. Tell me. When Matthew is born, can I come meet him? It should have been a ridiculous question. Obvious. Of course, a grandmother can go meet her grandson, but something in our silence told me nothing was obvious with them. Sure, Mummy, of course. When? The same day he is born? We better wait and see how everything goes, okay? The delivery could be complicated. Valerie is going to need time to recover. I understand. But after that, yes, right? Can I go after? Yes, Mummy, we'll see how we organize everything. We'll see. Another vague promise, another way of saying maybe without saying no. It's okay, son. Hey, Mummy, I have to go. Valerie is calling me. Of course, say hello to her for me. I will. Take care. He hung up. I was left sitting in my kitchen, looking at the photos I had stuck on the refrigerator. Old photos of Robert. The day he was born. His first day of school. His graduation. And I thought about how that baby in my arms had become a man who kept me at a distance. How that relationship that had been my reason for living for 32 years was falling apart without me being able to do anything to stop it. Rose came to visit me that afternoon. How are things with Robert? Good. Valerie is pregnant. That's wonderful. When is she due? In 3 months. Have you planned when you're going? I fell silent. Mary, did they invite you? Robert says yes. That after the delivery. After? Not the same day? He says Valerie is going to need time. Rose looked at me with those eyes that saw everything. Mary, what's really going on? And it was there, sitting in my kitchen with my best friend, that I finally said it out loud. I don't think Valerie wants me around. Why do you think that? Because she ignores my texts. Because she doesn't thank me for the things I send her. Because Robert always has an excuse for why I can't talk to her. Because Valerie's mum is involved in everything, but I'm not. The tears started to fall. Because I feel like they are pushing me away from my own grandson before he's even born. Rose hugged me. Oh, Mary. I don't know what to do, Rose. I've tried everything. I've been patient. I've given them space. I've tried not to pressure them. But nothing works. Have you talked about this with Robert? I can't. If I do, I'll look like the problematic mother-in-law, the intense grandmother, and then they really will push me away completely. But you can't stay silent forever. And what do you want me to do? Demand? Complain? I've already lost my son. I can't risk losing my grandson, too. Rose sighed. You haven't lost your son. But we both knew I had. Or at least, I had lost the son I knew. That son who called me every day, who included me in his life, who made me feel important. That son no longer existed, and the man he had become saw me as an obligation, as something he had to manage, as a problem to solve. 2 weeks before Matthew was born, I gathered my courage and called Robert. Son, I need to talk to you. Tell me, Mummy. I want to be there when Matthew is born. Silence. Mummy, we already talked about this. No, we didn't talk. You told me we would see. But I need to know. I need to plan. I need to buy my ticket. It's just, I don't know if that's a good idea, Mummy. I felt the floor open beneath my feet. What? Valerie is very nervous, very anxious. The doctors say she needs to be calm. And I won't let her be calm. It's not that. It's just that having a lot of people around stresses her out. A lot of people. I'm your mother. I'm the grandmother. I know, Mummy, but... But what, Robert? I heard voices in the background, Valerie saying something I couldn't hear. Mummy, we'd better talk later, okay? No, Robert. Please, just tell me the truth. Does Valerie not want me to come? Long silence. Too long. She thinks that it would be better to wait a few days. Give us time to settle in, to adjust. And what do you think? I think I have to support my wife. She is the one giving birth. She's the one who will be vulnerable. I won't hurt her, Robert. I didn't say you would hurt her. Then why can't I go? Because she needs space, Mommy. Why can't you understand that? His tone became defensive, frustrated. I understand, son. What I don't understand is why Valerie's mother can be there, but I can't. Because she's her mum, and I'm yours. It's different. Why is it different? Because it just is, Mommy. Don't keep going, Robert. Mommy, please don't make things complicated. I have enough stress already. Valerie is about to give birth. I have a lot of work. I'm trying to keep everything under control. Can you, for once, not make this harder? His words hit me like a slap. Make what harder? Wanting to meet my grandson? Yes, that. Because now is not a good time. And when will be a good time? When I tell you? Silence. A cold, hard silence, filled with everything we weren't saying. I understand, I finally said. Do you really? Yes, son. I understand perfectly. Thanks, Mummy. I knew you would understand. But I didn't understand anything. I only understood that they were leaving me out, that after all the sacrifices, all the love, everything I had given, I wasn't important enough to be present at one of the most important moments of my son's life. I'll let you know when he's born, okay? Whatever you want. Mummy, don't get upset. I'm not getting upset in any way, Robert. I'm just respecting what you and Valerie want. Thank you. You're welcome. I love you, Mummy. Did he love me? I wasn't sure what that meant anymore. And I love you too, son. I hung up before I started crying. I sat in my armchair and cried harder than I had cried in months. I cried for that grandson who was about to be born and whom I might not meet for weeks or months or ever. I cried for that son who had chosen to exclude me. I cried for that relationship that was dying without me being able to save it. And I cried for myself, for the woman who had given everything and now had nothing. The day my grandson was born was one of the strangest days of my life. A mix of absolute joy and deep pain that I didn't know could coexist at the same time. I didn't receive any calls, no text messages, no notifications. I found out on Facebook. It was a Thursday afternoon. I was at work, cleaning the last office of the day, when my phone vibrated. A Facebook notification. Normally I ignored them until I got home, but something made me check. It was a post from Valerie. The photo showed a newborn baby, wrapped in a blue hospital blanket, small, perfect, with his eyes closed and his little fists clenched against his face. His skin was still reddish, a white cap covering his head. The caption read, "The love of our lives has arrived. Welcome, Matthew Blake Torres, 6 pound, 11 ounces, 20 inches, mum and baby, healthy and happy." I froze in the middle of the office, the mop still in my hands, looking at that photo on my phone screen. My grandson had been born, and I was finding out on a social network, like any stranger, like any distant acquaintance, as if I weren't the grandmother. The tears started to fall, uncontrollably. I sat on the floor of the office, still wearing my cleaning gloves, and cried. One of my co-workers came in and found me like that. "Mary, what happened? Are you okay?" I couldn't speak. I just showed her the phone. "My grandson was born." "But that's wonderful. Why are you crying?" "I found out on Facebook." My co-worker's expression changed. She understood immediately. "Oh, Mary." She helped me up. She took off my gloves. She led me to the bathroom to wash my face. "Go home. I'll finish up here." "But I still have work to do." "It doesn't matter. Go. Call your son." I grabbed my things and left the clinic. The trip home was automatic. I don't remember taking the bus. I don't remember walking the 3 blocks from the stop to my door. I only remember suddenly being seated in my kitchen, looking at that photo on my phone, zooming in to see my grandson's little face better. He had Robert's nose, the broad forehead, hands that already looked like my son's when he was a baby. He was beautiful, perfect, and I hadn't been there. I zoomed in further on the photo. I tried to memorize every detail. The shape of his lips, his chubby cheeks, the way his little fingers curled. There were already hundreds of comments on the post. "Congratulations. What a beautiful baby. Welcome to the family. Blessings. Can't wait to meet him." I hadn't commented. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know if I had the right to comment, as if I had just found out naturally, when the reality was that they had left me out of the most important moment. I scrolled down through the comments. I saw that Valerie's mother had written, "My beautiful grandson, you are the love of my life. Welcome, my darling." Her mum had obviously already met him. She had probably been at the hospital, in the delivery room, holding Valerie's hand, being the first to hold Matthew. All the things I had dreamed of doing. I kept scrolling, Robert and Valerie's friends congratulating them, co-workers, cousins, aunts and uncles. Everyone knew, everyone was celebrating. And I, the paternal grandmother, found out through social media. I waited an hour, 2, 3. I checked my phone every 2 minutes, hoping Robert would call me, send me a text, tell me, "Mommy, Matthew was born." But my phone remained silent. At 8 o'clock at night, when I couldn't take it anymore, I called him. It rang 6 times before he answered. "Mummy?" His voice sounded tired but happy. "Son, I saw the photo. Congratulations." Brief silence. "Oh yeah, thanks. How are you? How is Valerie?" "Good. Tired but good. It was a long delivery, but everything went perfectly." "I'm so glad, son. Matthew is beautiful." Thanks, Mummy. More uncomfortable silence. He didn't ask if I had seen the post. He didn't apologize for not calling me. He didn't mention anything about the fact that I, his mother, had found out about the birth of my grandson through social media. Nothing. Robert, what is it? Why didn't you call me? I heard him take a deep breath. I'm sorry, Mummy. It's just that everything happened so fast. Valerie went into labor at 5 o'clock in the morning. We rushed to the hospital. He was born at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then we were busy with the doctors, with the paperwork, with getting Valerie settled in the room. But you had time to post on Facebook. Valerie did that. Valerie had time to post, but you didn't have time to call your mother. My voice came out sharper than I intended. Mommy, please don't start. I'm not starting anything. I'm just trying to understand why I found out about the birth of my grandson through a Facebook post. I already told you. Everything happened very fast. So fast that in 12 hours you couldn't send me a text message, a 2-word text. Matthew was born? I was tired, Mommy, but not too tired to let all of Facebook know. Why are you making a drama out of this? His words hit me. A drama? Robert, I'm your mother. I'm Matthew's grandmother. I'm not a Facebook follower. I'm not a distant acquaintance. I deserve more than finding out on a social network. You're right. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry. I should have called you. But it already happened. You found out. Matthew is fine. We're all fine. His apology sounded automatic. Empty. Can I go meet him? The words came out desperate, needy. Mommy, we already talked about this. No, Robert. We didn't talk. You told me to wait. But he's already born. There's no reason to wait anymore. Valerie just gave birth. She needs to rest. I won't bother her. I just want to see my grandson. 5 minutes, that's all. It's not a good time. When will be a good time? I don't know, Mommy. Give me a few days. A few days? Robert, he's my grandson, and you are my son, and I need you to respect what I'm asking of you. His tone became firm, final. And what I need doesn't matter. Of course it matters, but you can't come right now. Why not? Because Valerie doesn't want visitors. There it was. He had finally said it. Not even her mother-in-law. She just wants close family. I am close family, her parents, her sister, and I'm not family. Mummy, stop it. I'm not going to argue this with you. Give me time, and I'll let you know when you can come. Tears were burning, but I wouldn't let them out. I wasn't going to cry on the phone. It's okay, Robert. Thank you for understanding. But I didn't understand anything. Take care. You too, Mummy. He hung up. I was left sitting in my kitchen, the phone still in my hand, feeling everything collapse. For the next 2 weeks, I followed my grandson's life through Facebook. Valerie posted photos every day. Matthew sleeping, Matthew yawning, Matthew with his little hands gripping someone's finger, Matthew in his crib, Matthew breastfeeding. An artistic photo, of course, nothing explicit. And in several photos she appeared, the other grandmother, Valerie's mother. In one photo, she was holding Matthew, looking at him with adoration, smiling from ear to ear. The caption read, "With the most loving grandma in the world. Thank you, Mum, for being here from day one. I couldn't do this without you." I stared at that photo for hours, the other grandmother holding my grandson, being part of his life, being recognized, being loved. And me here, hundreds of miles away, seeing everything through a screen, invisible, irrelevant, forgotten. I commented on some posts at first. My Matthew is so handsome. I love you, my grandson. Blessings to you all. Valerie never replied to my comments, but she replied to others. After a few days, I stopped commenting. Why bother? It was obvious that my presence, even virtual, was unwelcome. Rose came to visit me almost every day. She found me sitting in my kitchen, looking at my phone, looking at photos of a baby they wouldn't let me meet. Mary, this is not okay. I know. Have you talked to Robert? He tells me to be patient, that I'll be able to go soon. It's already been 2 weeks. I know. And are you going to keep waiting? What else can I do, Rose? You can demand. You can set boundaries. You can tell your son that this is not fair. And if I do, they will push me away completely. They have already pushed you away, Mary. What more can they take from you? She was right, but I was still afraid of losing the little I had left. In the 3rd week, I decided to try one more time. I sent Robert a message. Son, it's been 3 weeks. Please let me come meet Matthew. I promise I won't bother anyone. I just want to see him. Hold him once, that's all. It took him 4 hours to reply. Let me talk to Valerie. 2 days later. Mommy, you can come this weekend, but only for one day. Valerie is still recovering and doesn't want long visits. One day, just one day to meet my grandson. But it was better than nothing. Thank you, son. I'll be there. I bought the bus ticket immediately. For Friday night, I would arrive early Saturday. I packed a small suitcase, even though I was only going to be there for one day. I put in the clothes I had bought for the occasion. Dress pants, a nice blouse, comfortable but presentable shoes. I wanted to look good. I wanted Valerie to see that I wasn't a mess, that I was a dignified, presentable woman who deserved respect. I also packed gifts. An outfit for Matthew, a light blue one with embroidered bears, a new blanket I had knitted, this one with his name embroidered on it. Matthew. And I put in my leather purse the old photo of Robert, the one from when he was 5 years old and hugged me in the park. I didn't know why I was taking it. I just knew I needed to have something of that son who used to want me close. On Friday night I took the bus. Another 12 hours of travel. 12 hours looking out the dark window, imagining what that moment would be like. Holding my grandson for the first time, seeing his face, smelling his little head, feeling his weight in my arms. I had dreamed of that moment for 9 months, and it was finally about to happen. I arrived in Boston at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. I went straight to a public restroom to get ready. I changed my clothes, I combed my hair, I put on perfume, I put on makeup, even though my hands were shaking. Robert had told me to meet them at Boston General Hospital. Valerie had a follow-up appointment with the pediatrician at 9 o'clock. I took a taxi. The traffic was terrible, but I finally arrived at 9:15. I looked for them in the waiting room, and there they were. Valerie sitting with Matthew in her arms, wrapped in a light blue blanket. Robert next to her, checking his phone. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would pop out of my chest. I walked toward them slowly, as if approaching something sacred. Son, Robert looked up. His expression was strange, a mixture of surprise and something else I couldn't identify. Discomfort? Mum, you made it. He didn't get up to hug me, he just nodded. Yes, good morning. I approached Valerie. She looked me up and down quickly. I saw her eyes evaluating my clothes, my hair, my shoes, and I saw the judgment in her gaze. But she smiled, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Mary, it's good you came. Thank you for letting me come. The words sounded more submissive than I would have liked. I looked down at the bundle in her arms. Matthew, my grandson. He is beautiful, I whispered. Thank you. Can I, can I hold him? Valerie squeezed Matthew against her chest. He's asleep right now. If I move him, he wakes up and then cries a lot. It's okay, I can wait. I sat in the chair next to them. The silence was uncomfortable. Robert was still on his phone. Valerie was looking straight ahead. I was looking at Matthew, trying to see his little face between the blankets. How have you been feeling? I asked Valerie, trying to make conversation. Fine. Tired, but fine. It's normal. The first few days are the hardest. Uh-huh. More silence. And how is he eating? Well, is he sleeping? More or less. Her answers were clipped, monosyllabic, making it clear that she wasn't interested in talking to me. 20 minutes passed that felt like hours. Finally, Matthew moved. He opened his eyes. He started making little noises. Now, I said, hope in my voice. Can I hold him? Valerie pressed him closer to her. He's hungry right now. I'm going to breastfeed him. She got up and went to the restroom before I could say anything. I was left sitting there, next to Robert, feeling the humiliation burn. Son, is everything okay? Yes, Mommy, everything's fine. But he wouldn't look me in the eye. Valerie took 30 minutes in the restroom. When she came out, they called her name for the consultation. She went in with Matthew. Robert got up to go with her. I was left outside, in the waiting room, like a stranger. I waited 45 minutes. When they finally came out, Valerie was holding Matthew and talking to the doctor about the next appointment. Robert was by her side, carrying the baby bag. Neither of them looked at me. I caught up with them in the hallway. How was everything? Good. Matthew is perfect. Growing very well, Robert said. That's good. Hey, son, should we go to your place? I'd like to spend some time with you two. See where you live. Robert and Valerie exchanged a look. Honestly, Mummy, Valerie is tired. We were thinking of grabbing a quick bite and then resting. I can come to lunch with you. Another look between them. Well, also, my family is coming this afternoon, Valerie said, speaking directly to me for the first time. The house is going to be full. No problem. I can meet them. I don't think that's a good idea. It will be a lot of people. A lot of noise. It won't be comfortable for you. Comfortable for me? As if she were thinking about my comfort, and not the fact that they simply didn't want me there. I looked at Robert, hoping he would say something, that he would defend me, that he would say, "She's my mum, she can stay." But he didn't say anything. He just put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Mummy, please, don't make things complicated." Don't make things complicated. Those words again. I felt something inside me break. It's okay, I said, in a voice I didn't recognize as my own. I understand. Do you really? Robert asked, obvious relief on his face. Yes, thank you, Mummy. I knew you would understand. We went to a coffee shop near the hospital. We ordered sandwiches that I barely touched. The conversation was forced, superficial. Valerie breastfed Matthew at the table, using a blanket to cover herself. I tried not to look, to give her privacy, even though all I wanted was to see my grandson. After an hour, Robert looked at his watch. "Mommy, it's getting late. We should take you to the terminal." I had travelled 12 hours. I had been with them 2 hours and they were sending me back. So soon? It's just that Valerie needs to rest before her family arrives. I nodded. We paid the check. We left the coffee shop. Robert hailed a taxi. And it was there, in the back seat of that taxi on the way to the terminal, that I finally held my grandson for the first time. 5 minutes. Only 5 minutes. Valerie passed him to me with obvious reluctance, as if she were handing over something fragile that she was afraid I would break. I received him in my arms with trembling hands. He was so small, so perfect. He smelled like a baby, like milk, like new life. His eyes were closed, his long eyelashes resting on his chubby cheeks, his mouth making sucking movements even in his sleep. I touched his little hands. They were soft, warm. His little fingers curved around my index finger instinctively. My grandson. My Matthew. Tears were rising, but I held them back. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing me weak. I kissed his forehead softly. "Hello, my love," I whispered. "I'm your Grandma Mary. I'm sorry I wasn't here sooner, but I love you. I love you so much." The taxi arrived at the terminal too quickly. Valerie held out her arms. "We're here." I looked at Matthew one last time. I tried to memorize everything. The shape of his nose, the color of his skin, the weight of his little body in my arms. And I gave him back. Robert got out with me. He took my suitcase out of the taxi. "Thanks for coming, Mummy." "Of course, son." He hugged me. It was a quick, awkward hug. "Take care on the road." "Yes, I'll call you soon. Whenever you can." He got back into the taxi. Before closing the door, he looked at me. "Mommy, really, thanks for understanding." I didn't reply. The taxi pulled away. I watched it drive away. I watched it get smaller and smaller until it disappeared into the traffic. I was left standing there at the entrance of the terminal, with my suitcase at my feet, feeling the world crumble around me. 12 hours there, 2 hours visit, 5 minutes with my grandson, 12 hours back. And a pain in my chest that was physical, real, as if someone had cut open my chest and ripped out something vital. I went into the terminal. I bought a bottle of water that I didn't drink. I sat on a plastic bench to wait for my bus. I took out my phone. I opened Facebook. Valerie had already posted a photo. It was from lunch at the coffee shop. Robert and her smiling, Matthew asleep between them. The caption read, "Perfect morning with my loves." I wasn't in the photo. It was as if I hadn't been there, as if my presence hadn't mattered, as if I didn't exist. And it was in that moment, sitting in that noisy, crowded terminal, that I finally understood. They didn't want me in their lives. Valerie was never going to accept me. And Robert had chosen. He had chosen to exclude me. The bus arrived. I got on. I found my seat. I sat by the window. During the entire return trip, I didn't cry. I didn't look out the window. I just took out that old photo of Robert, the one from when he was 5 years old, and hugged me in the park. I looked at it for hours, and I tried to remember when everything had changed, when that child who needed me had become a man who saw me as a problem, when his love had been replaced by obligation, when I had stopped mattering. I arrived in Denver at sunrise. The sun was just beginning to rise. I took a taxi to my house. When I went inside, everything was exactly as I had left it. Silent, empty. I left my suitcase on the floor. I hung my leather purse on the door, and I sat at my kitchen table, the same table where Robert and I had shared so many meals, so many conversations, so many moments. I made myself a coffee even though I wasn't hungry. I just needed to do something with my hands. And it was there, sitting in that familiar kitchen, drinking bitter coffee, when my life changed forever. My phone rang. Unknown number. Boston. For a second, my heart leaped. I answered. "Hello? Mrs. Mary Blake?" It wasn't my son's voice. It was a woman's voice. Professional. Cold. "Yes, this is she. Good morning, ma'am. I'm calling from Boston General Hospital, Billing and Collections Department." Oh, my blood ran cold. "Yes, we have an outstanding balance on the account for the delivery of Mrs. Valerie Torres Blake, your daughter-in-law." I closed my eyes. The medical insurance covered most of the expenses, but there is a remaining balance of $10,000 for the private room, special medications, and some additional procedures that were performed during the delivery. $10,000. Your son, Mr. Robert Blake, provided your number as an emergency contact for payment issues. Emergency contact for payment issues. He hadn't called me in 3 weeks. He hadn't let me be present when my grandson was born. He had given me 2 hours of visit, 5 minutes holding Matthew, but he had given my number to the hospital so that I would pay his debts. "Mrs. Blake, are you listening?" My heart was beating slowly, very slowly. I thought of everything. The years cleaning floors in the early morning to pay for his college, the sleepless nights when he was sick, the business I sold so he could study, every sacrifice, every tear, every moment when I put his well-being before my own. I thought about how he had treated me, how he had pushed me away, how he had humiliated me again and again. And I thought about this latest humiliation, giving my number to the hospital, as if I were an ATM, as if my only value were financial. "Ma'am, can you make the deposit this week?" I took a deep breath, very deep, and I felt something inside me finally break. Not toward pain, but toward clarity, toward liberation. "Ma'am, we need an answer. If we can't resolve this soon, we will have to initiate a legal process that could affect your son's credit history." My voice came out calm when I spoke, calmer than I felt, but firm, clear, final. "I don't have family there." There was a silence on the other end of the line. I don't have family in Boston. "But, ma'am, our records clearly state that you are the mother of the patient Robert Blake and that there is a mistake in your records." "Ma'am, there can't be a mistake. Your son personally gave us your information as a contact." "My son?" I interrupted, with a voice I didn't recognize as my own. "He is mistaken. I don't have a son named Robert Blake. I don't have family in Boston. I have no relation to the account you are collecting." "But, ma'am—" "Good day," and I hung up. I put the phone down on the table. My hands were trembling violently. My heart was beating so hard I could feel it in my ears. But for the first time in years, I felt something I had forgotten existed. I felt power. I felt control. I felt that I had recovered a part of myself, because for the first time in my life, I had said no to my son. And the sky didn't fall. The world didn't end. I was still here, breathing, existing, choosing myself. 3 days passed before Robert reacted. 3 days of absolute silence during which my phone didn't ring once. I also didn't turn it on after that call from the hospital. I left it on the kitchen table, turned off, as a reminder of the decision I had made. Rose came to visit me on the second day. "Did you talk to Robert?" "No." "Is he going to call?" "Probably, when the hospital tells him I'm not going to pay." "And what are you going to do when he calls?" "I don't know." But I did know. I just didn't want to say it out loud yet. On the third day, I turned on my phone. 27 missed calls, all from Robert. 15 text messages, escalating from urgency to desperation to rage. First message: "Mum, I need to talk to you. It's urgent." Call me, please. Third message. Mum, the hospital says you're not going to pay. What is going on? Call me. Seventh message. Mum, this is serious. I need you to call me now. 10th message. I can't believe you're doing this. Call me. Final message. Valerie was right about you. You've always been like this. Selfish. I read that word over and over. The woman who had worked double shifts for years. The one who sold her dead husband's business to pay for college. The one who cleaned floors smelling of bleach so her son could have a better future. Selfish. There were also 2 voicemails. I listened to them. The first was pure urgency. Mum, please call me. The hospital is pressuring us. We need that money. I don't understand why you told them you don't have family here. What does that mean? Call me, please. The second was different. Colder. You know what, Mum, it doesn't matter. We'll find a way to pay. But I want you to know this says a lot about you. After everything we've been through. After everything. I can't believe you're doing this to us when we need you most. Valerie was right. You've always been manipulative. You've always wanted to control me with your money. Well, it doesn't work anymore. Not anymore. I put the phone away. I didn't call back. For the next week, Robert kept calling, less frequently, but he kept trying. I didn't answer any calls, until an email arrived. Subject: We need to talk. I opened it. I read it slowly. Mum, I don't understand what is going on. I don't understand why you won't answer my calls. I don't understand why you told the hospital you don't have family here. Do you know what that did to us? Valerie cried. She cried because she felt humiliated when the hospital called her directly to collect the payment. We just had a baby. We are trying to adjust to this new life. And you do this to us. Dad always said that family supports each other in difficult times, that you can count on family. I always supported you when you needed it. When Dad died, I was there. When you had problems, I listened to you. When you needed something, I helped you. Now that I need help, this is how you respond to me. I don't know what we did to deserve this. Valerie just wanted a little space after the birth. It's normal. Every woman needs it. And you take it as a personal attack. The hospital is threatening us with legal processes. It could affect our credit. All because you decided to play the victim and say you don't have family. I hope you reconsider. I hope you think about Matthew, about your grandson, that this is not about you or me. It's about him. If you don't want to support us, fine, but at least have the decency to tell me to my face instead of ignoring me. Robert. I read the email 3 times. Every word was designed to blame me, to make me feel selfish, bad, wrong. And it worked. For a few minutes, it worked. I thought, he's right. He's going through a difficult time. He just became a father. He needs help. I thought, maybe I was too harsh. Maybe I overreacted. I thought, I should call him, apologize, fix this. But then I reread one part. I always supported you when you needed it. When? When had he supported me? When his father died? I was the one who comforted him. I was the one who held this family together. I was the one who sold the business and worked until I was exhausted so he could continue studying. Where was his support in the last 2 years? When I felt lonely, when I missed him, when I just needed to hear his voice. Where was he when I was kept away from the birth of my grandson? Where was he when they gave me 2 hours to visit after a 12-hour trip? Where was he when Valerie treated me like a stranger? There was no support, only excuses. And now, when I finally set a boundary, I was the bad guy. I replied to the email, I wrote and deleted the message 100 times. I wanted to scream at him, explain to him, make him see how much pain he had caused me. But in the end, I wrote this. Robert, you are right about one thing. Your father always said that family supports each other, but he also said that family respects each other, that family takes care of each other, that family doesn't push you away when you need them most. For months I asked you to let me be close. I asked to meet my grandson. I asked to be part of your life. And you told me I was intrusive, that I was a problem, that you needed peace in your house. I travelled 12 hours to meet Matthew. You gave me 2 hours. You let me hold him for 5 minutes. And then you sent me back as if I were a bother. You never called me when he was born. I found out on Facebook. You never included me in anything, only when you needed money. I am not going to pay that bill, Robert. Not because I don't love you, not because I don't care about Matthew, but because I cannot continue to let you treat me as if I only matter when it is convenient for you. I am your mother. I deserve respect. I deserve to be present. I deserve more than being an emergency contact for collections. I hope you find a way to resolve your situation. I really do. But it will not be at the expense of my dignity. If one day you decide that you want to have a real relationship with me, one where I matter too, I will be here. Until then, I wish you the best. Mum. I sent the email before I could regret it, and then I turned off my computer. The reply arrived 2 hours later. I didn't read it until the next day. I can't believe you are so selfish. Valerie was right about you from the beginning. Goodbye. That was all. No reflection. No attempt to understand. No apology. Just Valerie was right. And goodbye. Weeks turned into months. Robert didn't call again. He didn't write again. I didn't look for him either. At first it was hard. There were days when I picked up the phone and almost dialed his number. Days when I wondered if I had done the right thing. But Rose kept me firm. Mary, you didn't do anything wrong. You set a boundary. That doesn't make you a bad mother. It makes you a woman with dignity. But he's my son. And you are his mother, a mother who deserves respect. Little by little, I learned to live with the silence. I stopped checking Facebook. I stopped looking for updates about Matthew. I stopped torturing myself by watching a life I had been excluded from. I focused on myself. I resumed activities I had abandoned, the knitting classes, morning walks, afternoons with Rose. I started reading again. Books I liked, stories that made me forget for a few hours. And slowly, very slowly, I began to feel something like peace. It wasn't happiness, not yet, but it was peace, and it was enough. 6 months after the last time I spoke to Robert, Rose asked me a question. Do you regret it? I thought about it. I really thought. No, I finally said. I don't regret it. Why not? Because for the first time in my life, I chose myself. And that is worth more than any relationship where I have to beg for love. Rose smiled. There's my Mary. But life has strange ways of surprising you. Just when I was starting to feel like I could breathe again, that I could live without that constant weight on my chest, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. Boston. This time I didn't hesitate to answer. I was no longer afraid. Hello, Mrs. Mary Blake. Yes? Good afternoon. This is Fernanda Ruiz. I am a social worker at Boston General Hospital. General Hospital, not Boston General. Yes. Don't be alarmed, ma'am. Your daughter-in-law, Valerie Torres, was admitted to the emergency room 2 days ago. She had a severe nervous breakdown. She is stable now. But we need to contact a close family member who can temporarily take care of the baby. The world stopped. The baby? Yes, Matthew. He is 1.5 years old. Your son is with her in the hospital, but he cannot take care of the child and be present for his wife at the same time. He gave us your contact as a second family option. Second option, not even the first. Is my son there? Yes, ma'am. Do you want me to put him on? No. The word came out automatically. I understand. Ma'am, we urgently need someone to pick up the child. He is in a temporary daycare at Child Protective Services, but they can only keep him until tomorrow morning. After that, we would have to contact other agencies. I closed my eyes. 1.5 years without speaking to Robert. 1.5 years without seeing my grandson. 1.5 years building my peace. And now this. Mrs. Blake, what happened to Valerie? According to the report, it was a collapse due to accumulated stress, severe anxiety, untreated postpartum depression. She needs rest and psychiatric treatment. And my son? He's with her, but the situation is complicated. He apparently lost his job a few months ago. They have had financial difficulties. They are living with her parents, but the situation is tense. Everything was falling apart for them, and I was the last option. Mum, I need an answer. Can you come for the child? I thought of Matthew, 1.5 year old child who was not at fault for anything, who hadn't asked to be born in the middle of this chaos. I thought of Robert, how he had treated me, how he had pushed me away, how he only looked for me when he needed something. I thought of myself, the year it had taken me to recover, the peace I had finally found. And I made a decision. I'm on my way. Because he was my grandson, and this time I was coming on my own terms. I took the bus that same night, 12 more hours of travel, but this time it was different. I wasn't begging. I was going because they needed me. I arrived at Boston General Hospital at dawn. Robert was in the waiting room. He looked destroyed, haggard, with deep dark circles under his eyes, his clothes wrinkled. When he saw me, he broke down. Mum. He hugged me and cried like a child. I didn't say anything. I just held him. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. You were right about everything. Where is Matthew? At the daycare, 2 blocks away. Let's go. On the way, he told me everything. How he lost his job in New York. How they moved back in with Valerie's parents. How Valerie fell into depression. How everything went to hell. I treated you badly, Mum. I pushed you away. I made you feel invisible. And now I understand everything. We arrived at the daycare. Matthew was playing with a toy car. When he saw me, he looked at me curiously. Hello, Matthew. I'm your Grandma Mary. I approached him slowly. He gave me a small, shy hug, and something inside me healed a little. The following months, I took care of Matthew while Valerie recovered, and Robert worked at whatever job he could find. I lived in their small apartment. I cooked, I cleaned, I raised my grandson. Valerie left the hospital 2 weeks later. When she saw me, she cried. Forgive me. I was so scared. Scared of not being enough. Scared that you would judge me the way my mother always judged me. And I hurt you. It's in the past. It's not in the past, but I want to fix it. If you give me a chance. I gave her the chance. It wasn't easy. There were difficult conversations, tears, boundaries that I set and that they respected. But slowly we built something new. Not perfect, but real. Robert learned that a marriage is not built by pushing your family away. Valerie learned that her fears almost destroyed everything. And I learned that my worth didn't depend on how much they needed me, but on how much they respected me. Life has strange ways of doing justice. Robert, who pushed me away thinking he was building a perfect marriage, almost lost everything. He lost his job, his house, his pride, and in the process, he learned that pushing away someone who loves you unconditionally only leaves you more alone. Valerie, who saw me as a threat, collapsed under the weight of her own pride. She discovered that being perfect wasn't possible, that she needed help, and that the help she rejected was the help she needed most. And I, who was treated as invisible, became the one who held them up when everything fell apart. Not out of revenge, by choice. The following years changed everything. Robert found a stable job. Valerie continued therapy. I visited more often, but always respecting boundaries. Matthew grew up knowing he had a grandmother who loved him, but who also respected herself. One day, Valerie told me, "My mum was never affectionate. I swore no one would hurt Matthew the way she hurt me. But in the process, I hurt you. Thank you for not giving up on us." Robert, on the anniversary of that day in the hospital, called me. "Mum, that day you said, 'I don't have family there.' It destroyed me, but it also woke me up. It was the best thing you could have done." Justice didn't come as revenge. It came as lessons. Life collected its debts. Robert learned that respect is built, not demanded. Valerie learned that pride destroys, and I learned that letting go with dignity is more powerful than clinging without it. 3 years have passed. Matthew is 4.5 years old. He runs toward me yelling, "Grandma Mary," every time I arrive. I no longer beg for hugs. I am no longer a second option. I am the grandmother. And it is enough. Robert and I talk every week, real conversations. Valerie and I are not best friends, but there is respect, and that is worth more than any fake hug. Last month, at Matthew's kindergarten festival, he looked for me in the audience and smiled. He ran toward me afterward and said, "I love you, Grandma." In that moment, surrounded by other families, I felt that I belonged, not because I begged, but because I earned that place. This morning I looked at my leather purse. I took out the old photo of Robert and a recent one, the four of us in the park, smiling. Both tell my story, the story of a woman who gave everything, was hurt, learned to let go, and finally found her place. If you are listening to this, I want you to know it is okay to set boundaries. It is okay to say no. It is okay to distance yourself from those who do not value you, even if they are family. Because loving does not mean putting up with everything. It also means respecting yourself. For years I thought that being a good mother meant always being available, but I learned that it also means teaching by example, that no one, not even your own child, has the right to treat you as if you don't matter. Some endings are not happy, they are just fair. Today, at 64 years old, I am happy. Not because everything is perfect, but because my happiness does not depend on anyone else. I have my grandson. I have my son. I have an honest relationship. But above all, I have myself. And that is the most valuable thing. Thank you for listening to the end. If this story touched your heart, subscribe and hit the little bell to hear more stories of women who transformed their pain into wisdom. Every day, one woman, one life lesson. Share this story with someone you love. Sometimes a story like this can change an entire day. May God bless you, and until next time.